1 is here, and it could be wild and wonderful for the Nittany Lions.
I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a great environment.
The crowd in Morgantown is going to be tough. Our coaches show us how Penn State can be ready for WVU.
I'll never forget running on to the field at Penn State was the most unbelievable thing that I think I can still recall.
Talk about an impact. Our interview is with West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin. He reminisces about his playing days with the Mountaineers going up against the blue and white and explains what he's doing to help the future of college athletics nationwide. Oh, Captain, my captain, Coach Bradley honors the 6 men who will lead the Nittany Lions this fall. And let it fly. Show your team spirit. It's time for Nittany Game Week. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski alongside former Nittany Lions coaches Jake Paterno and Tom Bradley. It is finally a game week that we can talk about, guys, and it's a good one to open the season. A trip to Morgantown to face the Mountaineers has to bring back some memories for both you guys.
Well, mostly good memories because Penn State's really kind of dominated the series over the years, even down in Morgantown.
It's a great place to play. I know it's a noon game. It'll be packed at 9 a.m. ready to get going down there.
Well, you have some extra experience as a former assistant coach there with West Virginia. It is a special place, and I know the fun is dissecting the matchups for you guys. The roadmap to victory is a little later in the show. We discuss past trips for PSU to the Mountain State, a new look offense and defense, and key changes involving some key personnel, all in our opening drive. All right, here's a look at some of the action from last year's opener at Beaver Stadium. The Nittany Lions dominated the second half to pull away for a breezy 38-15 victory. It's going to be a totally different environment in Morgantown, though, Jay.
Well, I think, yeah, no question about it because it's on the road. Number 2, West Virginia's got a lot of good people back on offense. This is going to be a much more difficult challenge than I think people think.
Well, one of the things is the reason I think it'll be a much more physical game than people think because of West Virginia's running game.
Yeah, they have a really good player in Jaheim White, a great running game. You guys will talk about that a little bit more. But, Jay, you want to recount the infamous Jack Daniels Green Label reaction from the stands.
It used to be wild. So, my dad came back from a game one year. He goes, yeah, they threw bottles at us. He said, one of them was a Jack Daniels bottle, a Green Label. Because I didn't even know they made a Green Label. And my dad liked the Suburban from here and there, but he very vividly remembered that. And some wild night games down there too.
Yeah. Well, the current coaching staff will throw everything they can at the Nittany Lions. They attempted a double reverse in last year's game. Coach Franklin knows his team is facing a quality opponent, carrying a lot of momentum into the season.
I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a great environment. And then on top of that, the way they ended their season, right? I think they ended up winning 9 games, and the quarterback ended up playing really well and finished the season on a real high note. So they got a ton of confidence coming into this year because of that.
And we already mentioned one of their best players on offense is a Pennsylvania running back, Jaheim White, who's a sophomore from York High.
Well, Tom, this week we'll finally get to look at the new offensive coordinator, what he can do with the new defensive coordinator. But, you've gone places and been installing new defense. What's that like when you're a new coordinator and you go into a place like that?
You have to be careful because you can't do too much. You have a lot of stuff, but you want to make sure that they're comfortable, too, because you can only go as fast as they go with you.
And no question about it.
Andy Kotelnicki, Jay, we have his offense's numbers at Kansas last year. So just like when James Franklin was at Vanderbilt, Kansas is not a traditional college football power. And these are some impressive statistics for Coach Kotelnicki's unit with the Jayhawks.
No question about it. And a lot of it, they had some really explosive wideouts, mobile quarterbacks, so I think it'll be interesting to see how they really use Bo Petrul and those things. But I think the question is going to be, in a league like the Big Ten where everybody emphasizes defense first as opposed to Big 12, how does that system work against those defenses?
You mentioned defense. Okay, now the other side of the ball, Tom. Tom Allen and his defense at Indiana, obviously not the same level of talent that he has right now with Penn State. Playing in the Big Ten East Division is no picnic, so can we take anything from these numbers at Indiana last year with Tom Allen?
I don't think so. I think it's a totally different atmosphere for him, totally different personnel that he's dealing with, and a totally different tradition that they play at Penn State, the pride they take on their defense.
Let's continue the conversation and examine some key changes with key personnel on this football team. Let's go back to the offensive side of the ball. Drew Aller, the #1 guy, and you look for progress from the junior, especially in the biggest games of the year. But Jay, you're intrigued by how you can utilize Bo Prabula in this offense.
Well, you know, if you go back to the early 2000s, we did this with Mike Robinson, we did this with Zach Mills and used 2 quarterbacks. Andy Kotelnicki has done that in his career. I think it's going to be interesting. He's talked about the kind of athlete that he is, so I think he's tipping his hand a little bit that Bo is going to be involved in some things, so we'll see how that works out. I think wide receiver is going to be a real thing to keep an eye on early on in the season, because if those guys can get down the field and make plays and beat people one-on-one, now you got to change your coverage, and now that makes your running game a lot better.
For Tom Allen, it sure is nice to step into a situation with Abdul Carter on your side. The plan is for the standout junior to split time between defensive end and linebacker. So how much fun is that to have a dual threat like Carter to scheme with, and how do you make something like that work, Tom?
Well, you know, one of the great things about Abdul is he can do so many different, they're just trying to utilize his talent. So week to week, I'm sure it may be a little bit different how much they use him here, depending on who they're playing. Are they going to use him as a linebacker, more of a rush end? What's the third down package? So there's a lot of different moving parts that they'll have with him, be able to do with him because of his skill set.
Yeah, the standout junior is ready to go. However, he is needed.
In the working that's required. You know, obviously everything you do in the off season is going to show during the season. So whatever work you put in, the extra stuff, you know, how you focus your mind, all that stuff is going to show. So that's what I just try to do, just try to lock my mind in doing whatever it takes to make sure I'm my best self.
He's a difference maker type guy, so you want him to be able to have multiple skill sets that he can impact the game at different positions. And obviously, when we get into our third downs, there'll be things he'll do already that will have things he's done in the past at the linebacker position as well.
Coach Allen also has junior safety Kevin Winston Jr. anchoring what should be another fierce defense for the blue and white. Time to step aside for a moment. When we come back, our coaches lay out a roadmap for victory in Morgantown. You are watching Nittany Game Week.
Roadmap to Victory is sponsored by the R&R family of companies.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. James Franklin begins his 11th season as head coach of the Nittany Lions. The team's 8-2 in their opening games under Coach Franklin, with difficult road wins at Wisconsin and Purdue in recent years. Another tough one to begin the 2024 campaign. Coach Bradley, Coach Paterno, give us the roadmap to victory in the Mountain State.
Well, the roads can be a little windy in wild, wonderful West Virginia, so we'll have to work our way through it and get it to a victory. So let's talk about West Virginia's offense, because I think this is the strength of their team. They've got 9 starters back on offense. They like to run the ball, and they give you multiple threats. Tom, 3 different guys there with 770 yards or more last year. 3 of their 5 offensive linemen from really good offensive line are back. That gives you some problems.
3 of their good ones are back, but they might have lost their best one in Zach Frazier, who was a top pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No question about it, but they've got a really good offensive tackle. Now, the thing about it is they want to start with the run game, and they want to get their running backs involved. One of them is from right here in Pennsylvania, Jaheim White. Dangerous speed and cutback ability, presents problems for you in pursuit. But while you're chasing him, you also got to be aware of the quarterback. So take a look at this run, how they come off this edge, and his cutback speed on this one. He really makes it tough for you to zero in and corral him, Tom.
One thing about him that's great is his shoulders are square a lot. He's getting upfield. He's not running to the sideline.
Green, their quarterback, really came on last year throwing the ball, but is a dangerous runner. Here, they're going to motion the running back out, so now you're an empty, you're thinking pass, and then lo and behold, Tom, here comes the quarterback counter.
Boy, I tell you, those quarterbacks, when they can do that running, it really sets a precedence for you on defense, because you got to always be alert for it up front.
And you know what's impressive is look at the cutbacks he makes, the vision he has to see the block setting up. You'll see this from the end zone shot where he really puts his foot in the ground. I mean, he's a guy you better pay attention to. Once you're focused in the run game, they've got you so run game focused. Last year, they were concerned about their wideouts. They weren't getting the one-on-one matchups. They got a transfer from Oklahoma State and Mississippi State. They got bigger wideouts, 6'4", 6'2", 6'1", 6'1", and a 6'7" tight end. And now they're going to throw the play-action pass game at you, Tom. And now, you get these safeties get tired of tackling the big back and the fast back and the quarterback, and now they're going to stick their nose in there, and now what?
Well, here's what's going to happen right now. Once they're going to try to establish the run game. That's what they do. But now that's going to set up the play action passes because those safeties are going to start creeping up and getting around the ball.
Yeah.
So, it can cause a lot of problems for you.
You see this guy from North Carolina, first play of the game, they're coached up on the run game to protect it. He steps up, they get a guy over the top, and off he goes to the races. And right off the bat, they beat North Carolina 30-10 in that bowl game. They're coming in with a lot of momentum. So let's take a look at defensively. Last year, led the Big 12 in sacks. They like to get pressure, a very multiple look, really good limiting touchdowns in the red zone. As you know, that's important. So with these 3 linebackers and 5 DBs, Tom, they can bring your run support from a lot of different places.
Yes, they can. It's a very versatile defense. The 3-3 can do a lot of different things. There's a lot of different movements, and it creates a lot of different problems for your quarterback reads.
And if they can keep Penn State off schedule with the run game, they have a chance to really be able to get to what they want to do, and that's rush the pass. So let's talk about that. With this look, they now can present multiple looks, multiple pass rush threats. 18 different people got sacks or pressured the quarterback. They don't have that dominant pass rusher, but they can bring a lot of different things. And you'll see from here, they bring a guy off the edge. And Tom, when you can throw a lot of different things at you, it's tough.
Yeah, it's what do you practice for? What do you rep? Because there's so many different things they can do. And I think the versatility out of that look, and you've gone against it, it's not easy with all the different movements.
Now you take a look at on their third downs now, they want to get you into third downs. Now they give you balanced looks. Quarterbacks, the challenge is going to be you got to read the safeties because cornerbacks can jump back and forth and lie. Safeties can't because they've got to be in position to make plays. And again, even these guys are only 2 or 3 yards apart. Drew Allar's got to be able to see that and see the blitz coming.
Yeah, he sure does. And one of the things that's going to, I think, really help Penn State is their great running game against the 3-3.
Thanks a lot, coaches. Of course, an expanded Big Ten attracts more attention across the country, also brings in an influx of talent to cover the Super Conference. That includes former Pac-12 Network host Ashley Adamson, who is now in the studios for the Big Ten Network. Adamson is no stranger to Big Ten country.
Before I started covering the Pac-12 12 years ago, I worked here in Indianapolis, so I've spent many an afternoon and night on this field here at Lucas Oil Stadium, so it feels a full circle moment there. I also lived in Ann Arbor for about 10 years as a kid, and my first football game day experience was the Big House, so I was a little bit spoiled. But so it feels new and different, but it also feels like home, so it's great to be here, and I'm excited for the 4 new schools on the West Coast to be joining, what is now the Super Conference.
Everything bigger, a little bit better when it comes to Big Ten football, including the number of talented reporters covering the games. Up next, talk about having an impact. He's the former quarterback at West Virginia University, former governor, and now current United States Senator representing the state. Joe Manchin, our guest this week. We reminisce about this rivalry when Nittany Game Week returns.
Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. It is time for our Impact Interview, and perhaps no gentleman has had a greater impact on the state of West Virginia than our next guest, Senator Joe Manchin. Senator Manchin used to be the governor, also recruited to play quarterback at West Virginia University, and I know he loves to talk about football. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
It sure is. It's good to be with you all. I really appreciate you inviting me and thinking of the 2024 football season ahead of us and 12 games and starting off with Penn State. It doesn't get any better than that, guys.
Having grown up in an era where Penn State and West Virginia played each other very often, what are some of your best memories, not only as a player, but also as a fan?
Jay knows exactly where I'm going with this one here. 1988. 1988. He didn't want me to talk about it. 51-30. I'll never forget his famous father got so unbelievably mad. They had to call the game with 49 seconds left because the fans stormed. We figured, hell, Joe Paterno's beat us in so many close games and so many times we should have won that when we were ahead with 51-30 with 49 seconds, they figured they had it. So they just took off and stormed the field, tore the goal post down. Your dad was so upset, pulled the team off, ran him back into the. Oh, I never forget that. That was unbelievable. I got a scholarship in 1965 WVU to play quarterback. Back then, you had to play freshman ball, so I was on freshman. And we played Penn State freshman ball. I played against Mike Reed, Ted Kowalik, all All-Americans. Jesus, they hit me one time. I did a rollout. I was show them. I'll show them what this old coal mining kid can do. They hit me so hard I was looking out my nose guard. I mean, my nose. They broke that. It was the helmet was turned around, and I'm looking at that little hole in where your ears go. So I'll never forget playing them. But then I got hurt really bad and couldn't pass a physical. But one game I'll never forget. I had to be it had to be my junior. It had to be in '67 probably. We were playing at Penn State, and they didn't have a backup kicker. Well, I could punt the ball pretty good, but I couldn't pass a physical. But they took me anyway. So I'll never forget running on to the field at Penn State was the most unbelievable thing that I think I can still recall in WVU athletics for me.
Senator, there's obviously a lot of change, rapid change in college athletics. Do you think that Congress has a role to play in creating a national standard of what the future of college athletics will look like?
We definitely have to, Jay. It's in the Commerce Committee, but basically myself and Tubby Tuberville, being a former coach, and myself playing a little bit, and then we had a few of us who have been involved in Division I sports. We're looking at that, and I had a few people we've talked to them. Tommy and I put together what we call the PASS Act. All we were trying to do is basically say, listen, as far as the NIL, if you're that accomplished, I don't care whether you're 15, 16, 17, 18, do whatever you can, get yourself an agent and do that, but you cannot use your services to hold as a bidding auction with colleges. Make your decision. It's called student athletes. There's no more student. They might as well take the student away from student athlete, because very few of them, the way this system and the way the portals are now, Jay, are ever going to graduate. They'll never have enough credits. It's just awful. The easiest thing probably to do, and the quickest thing, and what we should do, is allow to enter contracts. Just have a contract. I mean, better than having nothing now. This is a wild, wild west. Even in pro ball, you have contracts. They know where they're going to be. They know what they're going to get paid. They know what period of time they're committed to, but not here. And I talked to a lot of people. I said, well, if you all want to come to an agreement that all Division I schools are going to pay every student athlete $25,000, so there's no $1.5 million here and nothing down here, for the top players. If they want to go out and make the extra $1 million, there's nothing against that. They just cannot use their talent and the value they've created with name, image, and likeness to go and hold Penn State or hold West Virginia or any other school in a bidding war. Make your decision and live with it and go with it. So I don't know how you get that genie back in the bottle. The only thing I think is going to be able to do that Congress could basically mandate that there be a contractual agreement.
Coach Saban is one of your close friends. What's it been like following his career and watching him and seeing all the great things he's done?
Let's go back to where Nick Saban grew up 4 miles apart from me. He's 4 years younger than me. So I grew up with his dad, Nick Saban Sr. We never knew Nick Saban's name was Nick. We thought it was brother. So his mother, Mary, used to tell his sister they had a little golf station on the corner 4 miles over from where my dad had a furniture store and a grocery store. So we were all friends, and she had a little Dairy Queen, and she would tell her daughter Deanie, said, go tell your little brother, bring this over here. Tell your little brother, go get this for me. So Deanie said, hey, brother, just catch that. So we know him as that. So Nick was always raised to be, to develop a young person into a quality human being that will be contributing back into society. Now, fast forward, he gets into pro ball. Okay. He first of all started his main thing is I was at WVU when I told them and Jim Carlin at the time to recruit Nick Saban. Nick Saban was all state in 3 sports, straight A student. I said, Coach, if the kid never plays it down, you want someone like that. That's like having a coach on the bench. Didn't cost you much. He's too small, this and that, didn't fit the criteria. So I didn't give him a scholarship. And I always look back. If he would have had ties to WVU and a scholarship and on the football team, he'd have been our coach. But with that being said, we missed that. And when I was governor, I could never get him back. I always tried, did everything I could. And he goes into college, and then he goes into pro ball, and he's coaching for Cleveland Browns, Belichick. And I go to practice, and Belichick's crazy. I mean, they're practicing 20 hours a day and films and this. And he said, Joe, this guy's crazy. He's wearing me out. Well, Nick turned out worse than Belichick.
Well, the senator was very gracious with his time. We have much more from our conversation at NittanyGameWeek.com. Make sure you visit our website for the entire interview, along with other web-exclusive content like our depth chart and Nittany Game Week podcast. They will be the ones to lead the 2024 Nittany Lions, so they earn a preseason scrap medal. Tom recognizes some very important players on this year's squad. When we come back, we're heading into the final minutes of Nittany Game Week.
The Nittany Game Week Depth Chart is brought to you by Burke and Bradley Orthopedics. Located in Pittsburgh, Burke and Bradley Orthopedics is a comprehensive sports medicine practice, providing patients with the most current and innovative approaches in diagnosis and treatment. Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are In, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit thewearein.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
Tom, not always easy to recognize preseason scrap medals, but when your teammates and your staff announce you as a captain, yeah, that deserves recognition, doesn't it?
And it sure does. And we've got 6 really good football players here. Drew Aller, Dom DeLuca, Nick Dawkins, Kevin Winston Jr., Riley Thompson, and Kobe King.
Yeah, big honor to be selected as a captain. All right. Big news from Jay Paterno, author Jay Paterno. You want to clue us in? You got a book coming out and something attached to that.
Third book coming out, novel that follows up the last novel, talks about some of the things going on in college football today. So what we're going to do every week is we're going to have a trivia question, and you submit your answers to NittanyGameWeek.com, and we'll pick a winner each week, gets a copy of the book sent to them. So which Penn State letterman, former football letterman, is the only Penn State letterman to guest star on The Love Boat?
Well, in addition to our television show, we're bringing Nittany Lions together with our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com, connecting businesses that support the show with our viewers. Our goal is to build a team that keeps our hometowns strong. If you haven't noticed yet, got a lot to share with you when it comes to college football. Doesn't all fit into a neat, tidy 30-minute window. Make sure to check out NittanyGameWeek.com for web-exclusive content. And we finished with some pride picks, guys. We want everybody that's going to West Virginia, submit those pride picks and show us your spirit. For Jay and Tom, I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.